Hi, I'm Tony Van Veen, CEO of Discmakers. I want to talk to you about your music fans. Most artists think that a person is either a fan of their music or they're not. Fans are good, non-fans should be ignored. And that, my friend, is not how it is. You might not realize it, but there are actually 4 stages of music fandom. Today, I'm going to tell you what they are and what you need to do to make the most of fans at every stage of their fandom. Of course, one of the main goals for any artist is to gain fans for your music. Yes, making great music is probably your first goal, but for your music to be sustainable, you will need fans. The 4 stages of music fandom work more or less like a funnel. And you see the funnel here. And the goal for you as an artist is to move your fans down that funnel. Stage 1 of the fandom funnel is awareness. Your very first goal is to make people who don't know you aware of your music and, by extension, aware that you exist as an artist. Obvious, right? There's almost 8 billion people in the world. The vast majority don't know you or your music. So, in order to gain a fan, you must first create awareness. How do you do that? How do you get people who don't know you to know you? Well, there are quite a few ways, actually. One of the best ways is by performing. Get a gig as an opening act on a bill with a bigger artist. You will be exposed to that artist's fans, and bam, awareness created. Or you could pick up your guitar and start busking on a street corner. You can release music and hope to get discovered by getting your track on a large Spotify playlist. This is not easy, by the way. Or you can put out an album and be so great that reviewers will write about you and fans will tell their friends about you. You get the point, right? Your first step in converting strangers into fans is creating awareness. Then comes step 2, the second part of the fandom funnel, consideration. During the consideration phase, a music fan who heard your music considers whether they like you or not and shows it by making a small commitment. What do I mean by that? Well, let's say a person hears you as the opening act for another artist. They can either think, nah, not for me, or, kind of cool, I might like to hear more. And the small commitment they make, and it's really small, is doing something like following you on Instagram, or looking you up and following you on Spotify, subscribing to your YouTube channel, or, best of all, signing up for your mailing list. They don't know yet if they're a fan, but they like you enough to make that small commitment to hear more. It's not until stage 3 of the fandom funnel that you can consider a person a fan. That stage is what I call conversion. This is where they have decided, yes, I like this artist. And in a perfect world, they convert not just to a fan, but also to a buyer. They buy a CD or t-shirt at a concert. They buy your record on Record Store Day, or they buy a concert ticket. And actually, you could kind of argue that a person signing up for your mailing list is past the consideration stage and is already in the conversion stage. I'd argue it could be either. But the purchaser, the person who bought something from you, that person is a fan. And that is the kind of fan who can sustain your music endeavors. Yes, sure, streaming listeners are nice and important, and your fans will listen to your music on streaming platforms. But we all know that as an independent artist, you can't pay the bills from streaming. You need to convert those listeners to buyers if you want to have a long career. Which brings us to the final stage of the fandom funnel, retention. Once you've got a fan, you need to keep them. And to keep them, you need to retain mindshare. You have to stay in their head. If not, believe it or not, no matter how awesome you are, they'll forget about you. It's probably happened to you as a music fan. There was an artist you liked in the past and you haven't heard from them in a while and you kind of forgot you were a fan, right? Hasn't it happened to you? It's happened to me. You're scrolling through your Spotify artist list or you're looking through your CD collection and you come across an artist and it's like, oh yeah, I forgot about them. They were good. Well, You need a fan retention strategy as an artist so that that can never happen to your fans. Remember, if you do things right, if you perform periodically or regularly, if you release new music, your fans are the ones who will sustain you economically. They will buy from you, not just once, but over and over again as you release new albums and merch and perform live multiple times a year. Remember, every one of your fans has a lifetime value. That is the amount of revenue they will drive for you over their lifetime of being a fan. And your most likely buyer of your CDs and merch and concert tickets is a fan who's bought already before. For that reason, it is absolutely critical that you retain that mind share so your fans don't forget about you. How do you do that? It's pretty simple, actually. Number one, email them on a fairly regular basis, probably monthly or so, with interesting tidbits, what you're doing, new music you have out, products you have for sale. Number two, release new music multiple times a year. Today's music industry requires you to drop 4 to 6 singles a year, plus probably an album. Those singles will show up in the Release Radar playlist of those fans who followed you on Spotify, and I can virtually guarantee they'll give you a listen. Number three, perform regularly. If you're out there playing, it's hard for your fans to forget about you. And number four, post regularly on socials. However, you have to realize that the way today's social algorithms work, some 80% or 4 in 5 of your social followers will never see your organic social posts. So social is necessary, but by itself, it's not nearly enough to retain fan mindshare. If you don't do these 4 things, and you'll be surprised how many artists don't, your fans will forget about you, and they'll drop right out of your fandom funnel. They may even still like your music if they're reminded of you, but you're not doing anything to keep them engaged, and you're certainly not doing anything to drive revenue from those fans. So, to recap, those are the 4 stages of music fandom: awareness, consideration, conversion, and retention. Now, you may be wondering, why am I calling this a funnel and not, for example, a pipeline? Well, it's because as your audience moves down the funnel, you lose part of that audience at every stage. Each group is smaller than the group above it. Your largest group will be music listeners who are aware of you and your music. But a portion of those listeners who know you exist won't like you enough to go to the consideration stage, follow you on socials, etc. And only a relatively small portion of those will convert into fans who will actually buy something from you. And of course, over time, you will have fans who fall out of love with your music or who forget about you, which is why the retention part of the funnel is the smallest of all. Now, if you're in business, this might sound familiar to you. It's what we in the business call a marketing funnel. And surprise, that marketing funnel applies to your fans as much as it applies to, say, our disc makers, artists like you. Why do you think I do these videos every week? Yes, to share advice and tips, which I love doing, but also to retain mindshare for when you are ready to put your music on CD or vinyl, that you remember, let me do that at Disc Makers. You want to gradually convert music listeners down your funnel, from becoming aware of you and your music, to considering whether they like you, to becoming a converted fan, and then to make sure they don't forget about you. And the things you're already doing now are exactly the things you need to do to convert people into fans. You just have to do them consistently, and you have to do them well. If you put your mind to it, you can do it. I have confidence in you. I hope you found this helpful. I'll see you next time.